Okay, so today we are doing reflections. One type of transformation that uses a line acts like a mirror. So it reflects the image across the line. This transformation is called a reflection. And the mirror line is called a line of reflection. So a reflection in a line M is a transformation that maps every point P in the plane to a point P prime so that the following properties are true. If P is not on M, then M is the perpendicular bisector of the line P, P prime. So this is the picture on the right. It is cutting this line P, P prime in half. And then my second situation, if P is on M, then P is P prime. They're the same point. So our first example is reflections with horizontal and vertical lines. A wants me to reflect across the x-axis. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plot this point. My x-axis is the straight across line right here. So if I'm 2 above it, then what I want to do is I'm going to move 2 below it for my H prime. Then B is G is 5, 4. And it wants me to go across the line y equals 4. Y equals 4. Which is this line. So because it's the same one on that point, this is also going to be my G prime. Because the point is on that line. Okay. This next one wants me to graph FG with the endpoints F is -1, 2, and G is 1, 2. And its image after a reflection in the line y equals x. So that is, I start at the origin and I go up 1 over 1. So what I want to think about is if I folded this paper over that red line I just drew, where the new G would go. So this one is diagonal right here. So I'd go diagonal right here to the next square to get my G prime. And the same thing for my F, it's diagonal right here. So it's going through one square diagonally completely, and then half of one. So I'm going to go half of one and through one to get my F prime. Okay, so I have coordinate rules for reflection. My first one is if I'm going over the x-axis. I want to make my y value negative. So what this is doing is it's taking x, y, and then it's turning it into the x stays the same, and then my y value just changes signs. My next kind of rule is over the y-axis, which is similar. I'm going to make my x value negative. So this one I still have my point x, y that I start off with, and then my x is going to change signs, and my y stays the same. Okay, my next one is over the line y equals x. I just swap my x and y coordinates. So if I start with x, y, then my ending point should be y, comma, x. My last one is over the line y equals negative x. This is to make both x and y negative and then swap the letters. So if I start off with x, y, then it's going to turn into negative y, negative x. Okay, number 3 wants me to graph FG with the endpoints of F equals negative 1, 2. And G is 1, 2. Over the line y equals negative x. So this one starts at my origin and goes down 1, right 1. So what I can do is I can follow my rule for number 4. I can make both my x and y change signs and then swap them. So my f prime is going to turn into negative 2 and positive 1. Because I moved the 2 to the first spot and I changed its sign, and I moved the negative 1 to the second spot and changed its sign. So negative 2, 1 is right there. And then I can do the same thing for G prime. I'm going to switch the numbers, so then it's going to turn into negative 2, negative 1. Switch the numbers and change the signs. The next thing we have is glide reflections. These are transformations involving a translation. So what we were doing on Thursday last week, and then followed by a reflection. So what we're doing today. So the first thing is you move the translation from P to, this should say P prime. And then a reflection of the line K parallel to the direction of the translation maps P prime to P double prime. Okay, so number 4, we're going to do a glide reflection. This is really just a transformation with 2 steps. I'm going to start off by graphing my triangle ABC. My A is at 3, 2. My B is at 6, 3. And my C is at 7, 1. Okay. Then my first thing is to do a translation. This is telling me to move 12 to the right. 12 to the left. And then my y value stays the same. So I'm just going to count over 12 squares. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this is going to be my new A prime. And I'm going to do the same thing for all my other points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then same thing for this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then my next step is the reflection in the x-axis. This means make my y values negative. So over here on A, my y value is a positive 2. So then I'm going to go down 2. And then it's going to turn into A double prime. My B is up 3, so I'm going to go down 3. And my C is up 1, so I go down 1. Okay, moving on to our next page. Reflection. Figure in the plane has a line of symmetry. If the figure can be mapped onto itself by a reflection in the line. So basically, if I can fold it in half and it will cover itself, then that is a line of symmetry. So for this first picture, I can cut this arrow in half horizontally, and it will fold over on itself. For the second figure, I can do it vertically. So right down the middle vertically, or right down the middle horizontally, and it will give me the same shape, like it'll match up. So the second example is showing me hexagons. Not all, just because they're all hexagons doesn't mean they're going to have the same number of lines of symmetry. This first picture, I can only draw a line vertically to get it to cover itself. Any other way I fold that picture is not going to cover itself. The second picture, I can do vertically, and I can also do this one horizontally. But if I try to do diagonally, it's not going to cover it up nicely. This last one, all of those sides and all of those angles are the same. So I actually can cut this one. I can cut it vertically. I can cut it horizontally. And then through each of the diagonal corners, I can do that. And then through each of the flat sides I can do. So in the end, when I've drawn all of my lines on this last picture, I should have 6 lines. So each diagonal, or each corner, and each flat piece gets the line. So this next picture gives me the diagram and it wants me to complete the statement. So I want to say what AB is the same as after I reflect it. So AB is this line right here. It matches up to EF over here. So then I have angle DEF, which is right there. The matching angle reflects across. So that would be this angle right here, which is angle DAB. My next angle is GFE, so that one right there in that corner. It's going to match up to this one in this corner, which is going to be angle CBA. Point C matches up to point G. Point D is on the line of reflection, so it matches up to itself. And then the last line I have is DC, which is this one right here. So that matches up to this one right there, which is DG is the one I have, and then DC is the one that matches up to. Yep. Okay. So on the last one, it wants me to determine the number of lines of symmetry on the flower. So for A, I can cut through each of these petals and it will fold up nicely. So A, I drew 3 lines. For B, notice these 2 petals are big and these 2 petals are small. So when I go to cut this one up, I can only do the 2 diagonals. I can do right here, and then I can do right here. Because any other way I cut that, the flower petals aren't going to be the same size. So this one is 2 lines. And then on C, all of the petals are the same shape, so I can cut each of my petals in half, and then it'll fold over nicely. So on C, I drew 5 lines. Okay. On my back page, it gives me a figure, but it's not on a coordinate plane. So what I want to do here is I am going to draw perpendicular lines to my shape. So it's really helpful if I have my ruler. I can use I can use the ruler, and if I see, like if I look at this one right here, if I make it line up perfectly with the line I'm drawing, then I can just draw this line to get my perpendicular line, and I can do that for all 3 of my points. So I just line up the tick marks on the ruler, and then I can draw my perpendicular lines. And then I can also, because it's a ruler, I can measure out the distance to make sure I have the right amount across. And then what I can do is I can connect all 3 of those points to reflect my triangle across. So then for this middle one, I can draw my circle, and then I can draw my lines. I'm just going to use the ends of the line in this circle. And then I just connect those 2 lines to reflect the shape. And then I want to do the same thing for my last picture. So on this one, I actually have 4 lines because this line is used twice. So this next one wants me to decide whether the conclusion is true or false, and then explain my reasoning. I'm going to draw a coordinate plane over here. So the first one says my point is 2, 4. And I am reflecting across the line y equals 2. So this is 2 up. Then my new point should be 2 down. Is that new point 2, 0? The point I drew. Is that 2, 0? This point right here. Is it 2, 0? Yeah, so then this one's true. I'm going to do the same for my next one. It wants me to start at 6, negative 2. And then it reflects across the line x equals 3. So this one is 3 away. So if I go 3 the other way, I go 1, 2, 3. Is that new point I drew, is that 0, negative 2? So that one is. Okay, Okay, my next one is -6, -3. It wants this one to reflect across the line y equals -2. So that's one down, so I'm going to move one up. Is this new point -6, +1? +1? This one is actually -1, so this one is false. Okay, and my last one is going to 5, 3. And it reflects across the line x equals 1. So this one is 4 away this way, so I'm going to go 4 the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this new point -3, 3? So this one is true. Okay. Number 5, it wants me to determine the name of AB after I reflect it. So AB is this one right here. The first reflection is across the x-axis. So after I reflect across this line right here, what's its new name? Which 2 letters? If I fold this paper in half, which 2 letters match up? GH. Then my next one is across the y-axis, which is right here, the up and down line. So if I fold that one in half, which 2 letters match up to AB? I'm going to keep them in the same order, so since A was on the bottom, I want to keep it with C first. My next one is the line y equals x. So across this green line, what's it going to match up to? And then 4 is across the y-axis, so we know that's CD. And then across the x-axis, so which one is across from CD? I want to keep the letters in the same order, so since C was right here, I'm going to go EF. Okay, then for my last one, I want to match up the 2 pieces that are mirror images together. So the 2U plus 1 and the 13 go together. The 15 and the 3W go together. And the 19 and the 5V minus 10 go together. So then I'm going to set up 3 separate equations. Okay, then I just want to go ahead and solve them. So this first one, I subtract 1. I have 2u equals 12. Then I divide both sides by 2. I get u equals 6. On the second one, I want to divide both sides by 3. I get w equals 5. On the last one, I add 10 to both sides. I get 29 equals 5v. Then I want to go ahead and divide both sides by 5. And I'm just going to leave that as a fraction since it doesn't come out nicely. I get 29/5 equals B.